Bonafide Hustler here. Bonafide Hustler here. Bonafide Hustler here. And today we're going to check out a remote control haul that I picked up about a week ago. What's going on, guys? This is Chris the Bonafide Hustler coming to you live from the inside of my room. Today I'm going to show you a remote control haul that I picked up about a week ago. It's a great remote control haul, and I think it's a perfect way to educate you guys a little bit more about something that I'm very, very good at hustling. And I'm pretty passionate about remote control cars in general. I've always messed around with them as I was a little kid, and now that I'm a fully grown adult, I seem to mess around with them even more. Now, the remote control haul that I bought a week ago cost me $600 for everything. And I think it has about a profit potential of about $1,000, maybe $1,500. But let's take a look at some of the things that I bought, so that way when you're out there, looking at a remote control haul or a bunch of remote control kind of stuff, maybe at a garage sale, you'll know exactly, should you pull the trigger or should you not pull the trigger, what exactly are you kind of looking at. And hopefully this video is going to steer you into starting to train your eye to look for the certain kind of remote control things that I look for. I think it's important to mention that the way I found this haul was through a Craigslist app alert. And I'm really big on app alerts. I've been doing app alerts for about 3 years, maybe 4 years now. And basically what that is an alert on your phone that's generated from an app that you program. So I did a little bit more of a write-up on the green room of how to do this, but you can check it out. If you have an Apple product or an Android product, there are Craigslist apps that you can program and put in your phone. So that way it's scanning the entire Craigslist local ad space while you're just, screwing around and thrifting and whatever. It's basically doing work for you. And that's how I found this haul. And as soon as I found this haul, I decided to, somewhat lowball the person, but give a pretty reasonable price as well, considering the amount of stuff that I did get. So let's start with the basics. I look for remote control kind of stuff that's hobby grade material only. This right here, and how you know it's hobby grade is if you can pull the cover off and you can see the internal workings of the car. These kind of cars are pro grade. This is about late 90s, maybe early 2000s type of cars. And you can see the suspension pivots right here. We follow it into the steering servo right here. We have the battery tray usually in the middle right there. And it's typically going to be right around the middle because of weight distribution and everything when these things fly through a track and everything and do jumps. We have a speed control right here. And opposite the speed control typically is also the receiver. The receiver is what sends the signal to the transmitter of the gun control when you're steering your car. This basically relays all the information to that transmitter. As we go to the back, we have the rear shock tower right here. The rear shocks going to the wishbones that go to the tires to power the tires around. We also have a gearbox of some sort, and then typically the motor is sitting right back there. So that's basically a remote control car for you. You can tell wear and tear on a remote control car if you just flip it over and you take a look at the underside. And as you can see, this one's in pretty decent condition. If I shine the light just perfectly, yeah, there's some scratches and that's to be expected, but it's nothing crazy. And you can tell this one's a pretty decent hobby grade remote control car. Market value on something like this is about $200. That's great, considering there are about 8, maybe 9 vehicles in this entire haul. And if one vehicle alone is pulling $200, that's great. But I still haven't got to the other vehicles. And I do want to show you some of them because they're really, really interesting. Always look for remote control cars that are hobby grade. Hobby grade remote control cars, that's where the money is. It really doesn't matter which one. They all carry some sort of value each and every time. All right, hobby grade remote control car number 2. This one right here is a T4. Very cool. Let's go over the same thing. We have, the front actual suspension pivots coming through the car right here. You got the battery tray. You got the speed control, opposite the speed control, the receiver right there. And then we go down over here, we have the rear shock tower coupled to the dog bones that go to the wheels to power them. We got the gearbox right there, and of course the motor is sitting back there. So here's another great car. I think its market value is about $200. It's really cool. And if we flip it over, this one's in really good condition as well. I mean, really good condition. Okay, what we have here is a vintage Stampede. This one right here is a hobby grade remote control car. As you can see, the shell comes right off and you can see the internal workings of the car. what's interesting about this one is this is classified as a roller. And a roller is a car that basically has all the guts and internals stripped out. So it basically says, hey, this is a roller, and you put your stuff in this car to make it work. And it's not complete as is. It's just called a roller. And if it gets classified as it's not a kit, because it is pretty much built, it's not ready to run because it has no internal, stuff working in there. It's classified as what's called an almost ready. So it's almost ready to run. If you just put your stuff in it, it'll actually be a running car. And you can take a look in there. You can see there's really nothing in there. There's a battery tray, but there's no battery. There's no speed control, ESC. There's no freaking transmitter. There's none of that stuff. There is a front steering servo right here, which is the part that makes the wheels turn, but there's nothing else. Back here, there's like one gear, and it's waiting for the motor, as you can see. But this is still a hobby grade remote control car. This carries a market value of about, I would say, $60 to $80 right here. There's also a buggy in there. This one right here is a XXX buggy. Very interesting. It's kind of a roller. It's in between like a roller and a pretty much ready to go car. So it's hard to classify something like this. I still classify it as a roller though. This one right here is missing the steering servo. As you can see, there's nothing here to power the wheels back and forth. The battery tray is there, but there's no battery in it. It does come with an actual receiver. You can see that there, but the actual speed control on the other side is missing. Of course, we go to the rear shock tower, and it seems as if there's an actual gearbox right there, coupled to a motor right there. Not a bad car. Market value of something like this, $100. Now this one's a really interesting car right here. This is a hobby grade remote control car. And sometimes if you're actually looking to see what kind of car is it and you're kind of confused, a lot of times on the body of the car, it'll show you either the manufacturer of the car itself or the actual model of the car itself. Now this one just says, Trinity, Team Losi, RC10 GT. This car actually is an RC10 GT. And it is made by Losi, which is a good racing brand. Now, what's interesting about this one is if you take the actual cover off, you are left with this. And it looks a lot different than what we just looked at, doesn't it? So let me flip the car around for reference purposes here. What we're looking at here is not an electric remote control car. This is a gas-powered remote control car. It's very confusing, as you can see right there. And it looks nothing like what we just looked at. So let's go over this one real quick. This one has front shock tower coupled to the steering servo right there. As you can see, the steering servo is the actual mechanical device that applies power to steer the front wheels. So here we have the actual receiver, but what's interesting is there's no speed control on a gas remote control car. Instead, it's an actual servo that controls how much of the actual carburetor will be open when you're actually gassing down the remote itself. So to explain that in very simple terms, essentially the signal is sent from here, the receiver, to this servo as you're squeezing the trigger and making this thing go. And this thing rotates right about here, and it opens and closes the carburetor that's occurring right about here in this motor, right around this area, right here. You can tell a hobby-grade gas-powered remote control car because there's typically a cooling head right around somewhere in this part of the car, and there's going to be an actual air intake with a filter really close to it. Oh, and of course, we can't forget the most important part of the gas remote control car, and that's the actual, there you go, fuel tank. And it's sitting right here, so when you want to put fuel in it, you open this cap, and there you go. You put fuel right in there. Wow, that fuel actually smelled kind of interesting. Hobby grade remote control gas-powered cars have all kinds of resale values, but this one right here probably carries a resale value of about $180 to $200.